Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Midwest Married. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Today, we have one of our avid listeners with us, and this avid listener called us out. Called us out on our cheating episode and said we were too soft, that we just haven't been there. So we thought we would dive into the cheating realm and the co-parenting realm and the divorce realm one more time. And we brought Krista on.
Well, thanks for having me. We are so excited that you're here. And by the way, that introduction did not to do Krista justice, because Krista also happens to be not just an avid listener, but our longtime, very good friend that we love to travel with, that I used to work with. Krista is a pharmacist and is so smart and knows all the things, but also has kids that are has kids that are older and younger than our kids, but is someone who I have absolutely asked you for so many words of wisdom and advice and all things parenting and family and etc. Because Krista is the nicest, smartest, most beautiful human being that you will ever meet in your life. So, now thanks you for get to having be me. here. I'm excited with us and talk about cheating
and parenting. And it was a rough day for the LaFlamme household. Our 5-year-old flipped somebody off, flipped him the bird in school today. So that was fun. We're winning.
Oh, you're not alone. It's the second week of school, and this morning, as I got the kids on the bus driver goes, "Oh, hey, did Emmett tell you he got in trouble on the bus?" And I go, "No." And she goes, "Yeah, he hit someone on the bus yesterday." And I go, "Oh, okay, we'll talk about that." And then they go off on the bus, right? And meanwhile, I'm walking back home being like, "Oh my gosh, okay. This is kid number 2. This is new territory. We never had any of these messages with Eloise." And then later that day, Matt is like, "Hey, did you see the seesaw from Emmett's kindergarten teacher?"
Those are my favorite.
And I go, "Oh no." Okay, so I pull it up and I'm starting to read this message of, well, he didn't care that a kid was looking at him. And so he put his middle finger up at him. And
there are worse things he could have done.
That is true. But it's still not great. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, ugh, a little mortified. What kind of little human being are we raising? I told the kindergarten teacher we value kindness. I don't know where this is coming from.
On with the cheating.
I'm still stressed about this, you guys. I'm sorry. Krista has assured me that it's going to be okay. Yes, this was the first thing that I told Krista when she came over. I was like, "This is what happened today. What do I do?"
You're handling it beautifully. Okay. We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Okay. Cheating.
So before we dive into your cheating stories, let's go to a Reddit story.
Okay.
Let's break the ice here. Am I the asshole? And for the record, these are very recent. These should not have been read by anybody else, 2 hot takes wise. 7 days ago. Am I the asshole for telling my best friend to sleep with her husband before he goes on business trips if she's scared of him cheating? My 33 female, husband, 33 male, and I have been married for 9 years and we have 4 kids. I've known my best friend for over a decade, and she is also married and has 2 kids. She recently confided in me she's scared of her husband cheating when he's away at business trips. It's not a ridiculous travel schedule. At most, a week per month, and usually less. My husband also travels for work anywhere between 2 and 5 times a year. I told her that if she really is that worried about him cheating, 1, communicate, get some reassurance from him, and 2, have sex the night before he leaves or in the morning before he gets in the car. She got angry at what I said and said that she's not going to use sex to bribe her husband not to cheat. I tried to explain that I'm not talking about bribing anybody and gave my own example that if my husband wants to cheat when he travels, he'll cheat and there's nothing I can do to stop it. But if I make sure that we have some really good sexy time before he leaves, chances are he won't be looking while on his trip. She got even angrier with me and stormed out. I meant what I said in the best way possible. Obviously, just being the best possible partners to each other, a healthy sex life, and being emotionally present is key to avoid any sort of cheating, but I don't think it was wrong to say what I said. Am I the asshole?
Ooh, that's a lot to think about. I don't know. I don't think what she said is necessarily wrong, but I also don't think that you should have to feel like, I think the second part of what she said, where like you want to be the best partner to your partner as possible, is super important all the time. But if you were having a bad day or it didn't work out, that shouldn't give anyone a free pass. And I also think if someone's going to cheat, they're probably going to cheat regardless of what you're doing. Does it make you feel maybe a little bit better and like reassured before he leaves that you guys had a great connection before he's gone? Yes. Does it maybe buy you a little bit of insurance? Perhaps. But I don't think that that's necessarily the answer.
I'd agree. I don't think that if you sleep with them or you don't sleep with them right before he goes on his trip, I don't think that that's going to make or break a cheater. I think he's going to have that decision made, like either that's something that he's okay with in his relationship, or that's something that has his hard line. I would encourage doing it though to keep your marriage healthy and just like to have that connection, and that emotional connection and physical connection right before, especially if it's going to be a little bit of a long trip for both of you, to have that feeling. Because if you leave feeling disconnected, then it's not going to
harder.
It's harder. Yeah, it's not going to give you permission to cheat, and you're not going to cheat. Like, right? Like, but it's about that connection in your relationship more.
So that's one of the reasons why I pulled this story, is I think that this story itself is not so much about the cheating. It's what kind of a relationship do you have currently? Because based on having those insecurities, it doesn't sound like it's the most secure relationship, or you're not secure in that relationship. And there's something lacking that the husband is not giving that wife to some degree. It's not about her not having sex with him. It's more of probably a connection or intimacy issue if she's worried. And then
if she's questioning it at all.
And are there signs? Is he
that's an icky feeling.
Being secretive, disappearing in the middle of the night, sneaking downstairs at 3 in the morning to send text messages? What's going on here?
If your relationship is, and it sounds like the person who's giving this advice maybe has a pretty strong relationship and is like, oh yeah, just do this because that's an easy answer. When in reality, if you really truly are worried about your spouse cheating, then it's not going to be so cut and dry.
Yeah. And I think to put that expectation on yourself, or have somebody else put that expectation on you, as like it's your responsibility to take care of your husband before he leaves so that he won't stray, is really dangerous. And really, if you already have an insecurity and then someone suggests that like it's your responsibility to make this work, I think that's extra stressful for that person to say like, oh, it really rides on your ability to make sure that you guys have good sex before he leaves, so that he'll stay with you. I mean, that's really toxic in a lot of ways, and just puts a tremendous amount of pressure on probably a situation that's already challenging if she's having those insecurities.
Because, so say he does go out and cheat, then if you live by this principle and you didn't find time to be intimate before he left, then is it like, oh, is it my fault?
Yeah, that's an icky
cheated?
Feeling. Yeah.
And I would say it's never your fault. I can't I can't think of situations where it's the other person's fault that
Someone else made a bad
someone
choice.
else cheated.
But I think it's really easy to fall into that trap of feeling like it's your fault. And I think it's really easy for other people to point that finger to say, well, if you would have done this better, maybe it wouldn't have fallen apart. Or if, had you been more present, maybe they wouldn't have strayed.
If you were paying more attention or if you were, fill in the blank.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
For the record, I always try to get in Amy's pants before she leaves on a girls' trip.
Fair.
Period.
Doesn't always work.
And if you were to fail and she were to stray, it'd be pretty awful to feel like it was your fault.
It's true. I wouldn't feel that way, but the internet is the internet. So I'm going to pick through these because some people were very unkind.
Really?
We'll start a little tamer here. Just an FYI, having sex with someone is not going to stop them from cheating. If they want to cheat, they're going to cheat regardless, and for more reasons than just being horny.
Agreed.
Yeah, plenty of people with healthy sex lives still cheat. OP is not necessarily the asshole, but gives shitty advice.
I think that's kind of fair.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah, they're definitely not fucking. She definitely uses sex as a bribe outside of this situation. Right? She immediately assumes intimacy is manipulation. If she felt that way, she'd go ahead and fuck him before the trip so she can get what she wants, but she doesn't want to do that. It sounds like she doesn't want to have sex with him at all. But she doesn't want anyone else to have sex with him either. She's worried he'll cheat because she's given him every reason to, and she knows it.
That's tough.
That's a Nikki comment. I don't agree with that one. No.
So back to my point earlier was there's something people are inferring what I was saying is that there's this relationship probably sucks. They probably aren't having sex and are not intimate.
Mm-hmm. The one giving the advice or the person who receiving the advice? OP?
The one receiving
the advice.
Okay, who's worried that her husband is going to cheat.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. OP sounds like she's banging her husband a lot.
Well, yeah, because she's like, well, it's just simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just have sex before he goes and it's fine because if you have a healthy relationship, you don't need to worry.
Yeah.
I had a friend, I have a friend, actually, who we were talking about Matt going on vacation to Mexico because his best buddy Pete, 3 years in a row, has won a work trip where like the entire office goes to Mexico if you sell so much
Soon to
whatever.
be 4, Peter.
And you can bring one guest. And Pete, coincidentally, at this time of year, all 3 years, has been unattached and single and has invited Matt, his longtime best buddy from
preschool
on up. I mean, he was your best man, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To go with him. And so I was like, oh, it's awesome. Matt gets to go on a free vacation to Mexico. His airfare is included.
Awesome.
They are... Everything's included, right? It's like so fun. He gets to go for a week. And my friend goes to me, aren't you worried that he's going to cheat on you? And I was so taken aback. I was like, no.
Should I be?
No, he's going with Pete and a bunch of friends. Like, I think it's a great thing for him. And she's like, oh my gosh, I could never let my husband go, or I would feel so uncomfortable letting my husband go just with friends on a vacation like that, where they're gone for a whole week with people you don't know. And I was like, oh.
It's still a business trip. You still got to be.
Well, business trip are just fun. Like, you had a lot of fun. I think it's just like it's a little bit of a reflection of where your relationship is.
Absolutely. That you guys trust each other and have the relationship that you have, I think means the world. And that is why you feel so secure. Like if you had that insecurity, you would probably feel differently.
Right. And knowing her and her past in that relationship, there had been some infidelity. So it was crazy how, it just blew me away how that was her like knee-jerk reaction. And she couldn't fathom anyone else being comfortable in that
In
situation.
their relationship. Which is kind of sad too.
Yeah.
Like that means that maybe she hasn't in a long time experienced a relationship that is comfortable.
And that has
and
that
secure
safety.
And safe.
Yeah. So.
Is it an appropriate time to ask your background with cheating?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have some firsthand experience in this arena.
Oh, you're cheating on Maddie. I saw the time, aren't you? Oh.
Never. I think that is something that he never has to worry about, because when you're on the other side of things, it definitely puts that into very strong perspective if it wasn't already. So I got married at, just before I turned 23. Was married for about 6 years, at which point I had my first son. And shortly after he was born, my husband at the time, we had some struggles, and he cheated on multiple occasions. And we really worked hard to reconcile our relationship and work through that. In the end, it didn't work out the way we had hoped. Because I think once you can't undo that. Once the cheating has happened, you can't undo it. And we both worked hard, I think initially, to really try to reconcile that. But in the end, it was just something that our relationship couldn't weather that storm. And so we ended up getting divorced when my son was very young, just shy of 7 years before our 7-year anniversary. And in the long term, I think it was probably the best for both of us. But that was a really, really trying time.
Sure.
I mean, it makes you question everything about your relationship. It makes you question so much about yourself. You kind of question a lot of the decisions that you had made up until that point. What could have I done differently? Is it my fault? Was it my fault? If I would have been a better wife, a better friend, if I would have been more attentive, like what could have I done to be better? And would I have ever been good enough to make him stay? Are hard questions to answer for yourself.
Really hard questions.
Yeah. And I think that sticks with you for a long time to try to figure out how you want to present yourself maybe differently in your next relationship. I'm very fortunate that I have a really awesome husband now. Not that my first husband wasn't awesome initially. And he's still a really great human.
Yeah.
Just we weren't great together at that point. But I think it does make me think hard about my relationship now. And I do things a little bit differently this time around. Not because I think I have to earn it, but because I know the depths of the darkness of how hard it is to go through not only an affair and cheating, but divorce and co-parenting and all of the things that come with that. And so, yeah, it's kind of a topic that hits close to home for me. But also I feel like I came out the other side in a pretty good spot. So.
Oh, for sure. So all those questions then that you were asking yourself, like what could I have done differently? Could I have, like all the self-reflection when it was your previous partner who had cheated on you, like have you found peace with those answers yet?
I would say 85 to 90% of the time I have. But there are some of those, I mean, I think we all have insecurities. All of us have things that we maybe wish were different about ourselves, our personalities, our bodies, our whatever. And those insecurities can be amplified by certain things. And I think most of the time, those questions are answered for me and I feel good about where I am and who I am. But there are certainly things that antagonize that and raise those feelings and emotions back to the surface, of course. And I think people start to know what those, like people close to you know what those things are. And so if the right buttons are pushed, certainly that can feel challenging again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And looking back at our friendship, I first met you like very in the midst of that time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was right before you. I think it was probably in the midst of it. I think it was in the midst because I don't remember really meeting your ex-husband very much. But I do remember helping you move out of your house and getting settled. And because your little baby Asher was just so teeny tiny at that time.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was even a whole nother layer of that, getting divorced and having to go through that whole process while processing the trauma of that experience, but having to like redefine who you are in that period while taking care of and being a new mom too.
Yeah. And I would say, at least from that perspective, I think was probably good and bad, right? Because I had this very small human to care for and love. I didn't probably, in retrospect, I probably didn't take as much time or as attention as I maybe should have to heal some of those parts that can still be challenging at times because I was a single mom.
Yeah.
And I had a 6-month-old baby and a full-time job and a house and all the things. And so life just kept going like a freight train down the tracks and you couldn't stop it. And so you just keep going.
You just had to do it. I remember your stories of you taking the baby monitor out with you while you were like snow blowing your driveway.
Yeah, I ran it over with the lawnmower once. The video still doesn't work, but the audio does. So those things are pretty sturdy. Tested, got run over by a lawnmower, still works to this day. And that was almost 12 years ago. So yeah, those are pretty sturdy things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there are just those pieces that you learn from, and then the pieces that maybe still probably need attention at times in your life.
Okay, so if you were to talk to another, maybe even new mom who's going through divorce because their spouse had cheated on them, or any similar situation, would you have any advice for them?
Oh, man. So much advice and so little all at the same time. It's that funny dichotomy because parenting is, I don't know, like Pandora's box a little bit for me. Like every time you think you know what you're doing, surprise, there's something different.
They flip the bird in kindergarten.
Yeah, and every kid and every situation is so different. But I think trying to remember to try. It's so hard to prioritize yourself, but in retrospect, there are things that I wish I would have done for myself during that time that I just felt like I couldn't do because the lawn needed to be mowed, because the driveway needed to be shoveled, because I was nursing and working and taking care of this small baby, that it felt like, oh, I went and saw a therapist a couple times, but then it didn't seem like it was that great. And it was just one more thing on the to-do list. So that like quickly fell off the to-do list. And thinking back, like maybe I should have taken a little bit more time for myself. But in the midst of that feels really hard to do. And everyone will tell you, oh, go take care of yourself. But you like look at them like, oh, how am I supposed to do that? And are you going to come watch my baby so I can do that? Like, how's this going to go? So I think as much as it seems like cliche advice, trying to take care of yourself in the midst of all of that too. And also knowing that like, it is going to work out. Like your life is going to be okay. This might be your hardest, darkest, craziest moment. But on the other side, it can be so good and so beautiful no matter how that looks. Like in those moments, in those months when I was trying to reconcile with my ex-husband, like, are we going to stay married? Are we not going to stay married? Are you going to stop cheating? And time again, he'd say yes and yes. And he'd come home and then it'd happen again and again and again. And it was finally just like, I can't do this anymore. You can't do this anymore. It's not fair to either of us. It's not fair to our son. Like, we have to make a decision one way or another. And you feel like my whole world is just shattered. This was my perfect family and now we're falling apart. But that the pieces will pick themselves up.
Maybe I didn't know this, I knew that it happened more than once, but so did it happen and then it happened again? Like you found out once, you found out twice, you found out another time?
In the time
Like-
before we got divorced, I think he had at least 2, if not 3 partners
And he
other than me.
told you that? Or you found out?
The first one he did tell me about. The second, I found out on my own. And there was a third, but by then we were pretty well decided that we were going to get divorced. And so I think that maybe felt more like a free pass at that point.
Huh.
So, yeah. But I mean, it went on for some time. There was probably about... From the time I first knew he was cheating till the time we were divorced, we're very fortunate that we could reconcile things pretty quickly. So it was about a 9-month period of time, but that still feels like an eternity when you're in it.
When you're in it. And still having to do all the things.
Yeah.
Go to
And, like,
work. Take care of your kid.
and watch your partner make choices that you don't agree with and be more present for someone that isn't you. Yeah. It's
And
really
maybe
hard.
not even, I think you had kind of mentioned like the change from when you had first married him to like towards the end of your marriage. It felt
Yeah. Yeah. I
like
mean,
almost
people,
two different people.
yes, people change and evolve. And in our situation, based on the line of work that my ex-husband was in, it was very, very stressful in a lot of ways. I do believe it really changed who he was in a lot of ways. And what's kind of funny now, full circle, he has since not working in that profession anymore and has done a lot of work. And I'm really super proud of him. Mm-hmm. And it's really beautiful now to see on the other side, like, oh, you are the human that I once fell in love with. And it's really good to see you're back.
Yeah.
And for my son, that's the very best thing that could have ever happened. For me, it leaves me in a very interesting place. Because
Yeah.
here is the person that I knew, and then he turned into a person that I didn't feel like I knew as well. Mm-hmm. And now when we interact as co-parents, it's like, oh, there you are. Mm-hmm. I do know who you are, and you're back.
Yeah.
And we're
And
both
that-
happy in
and that
different
took
places.
years
Yes.
to get there.
It did.
And
Like a
just-
decade.
Like a decade.
Like a decade.
Yeah. And so from watching that just evolve over time, I have just been so proud of you for your commitment to co-parenting despite
you.
your personal hurt. Like Asher has always been first and foremost in...
Go on, keep going. We'll get there.
Okay. Asher's always been first and foremost like number one priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
The moment that I truly knew that your co-parenting family situation, actually, it's really not just this moment, but you guys had been doing a good job for a long time. But perhaps my very favorite story, I really hope that you share the time that your current husband, that we love, Matty Ice.
Yep, we know which one.
You know which story?
Yeah, I sure do. I sure do.
Tell this co-parenting story, please, for the people, because it's so good.
I have 3 more cheating stories before we get to co-parenting.
Okay. We got to
Should
get
we
through
do
We
those
got to
first.
save that?
We'll save it.
Okay, we'll
come
save
back.
it.
I won't
This
forget.
story
You can't
is
forget that
so
one.
good, you guys. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you for sharing that, though.
Yes.
I know that's super vulnerable, and
it's okay.
but I also know that there's a lot of people out there in similar situations and just maybe feel really alone. And so hopefully maybe now you don't feel quite so alone. So.
You're not alone.
All right, Matt. Next story.
Let's
Go
do
ahead.
it.
Let's hear it.
My partner cheated on me and lied to his mom about it. Will I be the asshole if I tell her the truth? My 27 female partner, 28 male, of 5 years had an emotional affair with our much younger coworker and gaslit me about it for months. He broke up with me without admitting the affair, and I had to drag the truth out of him a few days later. While he seethed and told me I was hurting him emotionally by making him talk about it. I asked him if he'd be comfortable with me reaching out to his mom. She and I are very close, to thank her for everything she's done for me and taught me over the last 5 years. He consented, and I sent her an email thanking her. I didn't mention the breakup or go into detail. In her extremely kind and loving response, it became clear that he told her the breakup was mutual and didn't even mention the affair. In the past, she's expressed hurt and anger towards him for lying to her when he's ashamed of something that he's done. I experienced the same behavior with him. In her email, she said multiple times she hopes that we can stay in each other's lives. I think I would feel guilty cutting off contact with her without any explanation when she thinks we just mutually split. I also can't be complicit in his lie and give her a fake reason. Will I be the asshole if I tell her the truth? And also, this isn't particularly relevant, but I want to mention that the coworker is someone we've both known for years, and the only reason he has a job is because I asked our boss to hire him after I started working there.
Man. So my gut says not the asshole. I think honesty is really important, and I think the truth will come out. But that puts her in a really tough spot. Like, do you want to be the one to share that information? Ooh, I don't know. I would say over the years in my situation, these things were prevalent in terms of the story told and the truth. And it wasn't necessarily that my ex ever lied about it. I don't know that he lied about it to anyone initially but me. But just omission of the truth or just avoiding the topic. And I think there are still things that his family probably don't know. And I guess that's a personal choice. I have chosen to keep that to myself because I don't think there's any gain in me sharing that, but probably going to cause more hurt. But that's my personal preference. I think if you have a different personality, and I think I maybe would feel different if I didn't have a child involved. These are my child's grandparents, and I wanted to maintain as good of a relationship with them. And I want to maintain a good relationship with my ex. And so there are some things that are okay to be left unsaid.
So do they not know?
I don't know to this day how much they do or don't know. They do know that he cheated, but I don't know that they know the extent.
Okay.
And I don't know that that's important.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think that it would be super hard having kids to then throw your significant other or once significant other under the bus and drag them through the mud to make them look bad. Yes, what happened was wrong. You're probably embarrassed. It's an embarrassing situation. They're ashamed, potentially, whatever that may be. But yeah, in the long run, especially if you have kids, you still want that person to be reflected in a good light, even though they made a shitty mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you do. And I think everybody has to tell their own story and go with what they're comfortable with. But for me, that was really important and always has. So there's a lot of things, whether it was the cheating or the divorce or the aftermath of that and how things have played out in our parenting relationship, that not everybody has to know. I will share it with a small group of people when I have frustrations, but I don't always share the hard things really widely because I want Asher to always see his parents and his family as a happy, healthy place. And even though we're not married, we can still do that. For the longest time, I think it was until I was remarried and had my second child that my pediatrician knew that we were actually divorced, because we went to all of our appointments for Asher together always. Wow. And then I went for my first appointment with Everett, and my current husband walked in, and the pediatrician looked at me and she was like, wait, what's going on? What happened? And I was like, oh, this is my husband, Matt. And she's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you and Adam were not married anymore. And I'm like, well, we did pretty darn good then that our pediatrician didn't know that we were divorced for that many years, because But that was important to us. And we do
Yeah.
Asher's birthday together every year. Like the three of us spend the day together because that's important to me and it's important to our son and it's important to Adam. And so we've made that choice. And not every family can do that. But I do think for him, for our son, it's the best option for him.
Awesome. My thought, going back to the story, I think that she should not volunteer the information that her son had this emotional affair, because I think that you brought up the question, what is there to gain? I feel like that is more just for her own emotional maybe retribution, versus that she can heal in other ways. I don't think that the only way that she can heal that wound is by going to his mother and sharing that information if he didn't share that information with her. Now, if mom explicitly asks, why did you guys break up?
Don't lie.
Don't lie. Then be honest, especially if you have that close relationship. Open it up. But I personally don't think that she should just go out and volunteer that information. Because also, I mean, think about it. At the end of the day, that is her son. You don't, even if you're close, you don't totally know how she's going to react to that information.
100%. And you might be surprised.
You might really be surprised, and that might not actually give you closure. That might like give you worse feelings and trauma. Like, what if she is like, then goes down the road of, well, were you not communicating with him enough? Were you not meeting his emotional needs if he had to go elsewhere to have his emotional needs met? And play that sort of game. And really it's your relationship. Getting in-laws involved in your relationship is always kind of a tough, slippery slope to, I'm not saying don't lean on your parents, your in-laws, but again, if they are choosing sides in your relationship and if you're still together, like say you didn't break up, but you're having an issue and you're complaining to your parents, your in-laws, that can just make your entire relationship 10 times harder.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point because sometimes you think it's going to go one way. You know, you think, oh, this person cheated. We could never be together again. But sometimes life is messy and you might want to try again. You might feel the need to do that. And if you get too many other people involved, especially your parents, then they have animosity that can carry over potentially. I think that then when you are going to go, if you do decide to try to reconcile, then you have this whole other layer of complicated that it's really not immediately their business. And that advice can become even more challenging if you're trying to reconcile in the meantime.
Does that feel true to you?
Yeah.
I feel like we had turmoil in our younger 20s, and sharing that turmoil with family just made things messier because we did break up, but then decide to get back together a few different times during our 20s. So yeah, that was exactly the situation. It made it 10 times harder. Than my parents weren't really pro-Matt for a while. And you had to work real hard to get back in their good graces.
I'm surprised by that.
Why? I didn't do anything. Ridiculous. Shenanigans.
Life can be messy.
Yeah, it certainly can.
Yeah. For the record, your parents didn't like me from day one, so didn't really matter.
But also for the record, they love you now.
Oh,
Favorite
so good.
son-in-law.
Wonderful. True. Facts.
So what do people say?
Yeah.
Oh, before the people,
Okay.
I was going to say, I agree. She has nothing to gain by telling the mother.
Mm-hmm.
This was boyfriend-girlfriend breaking up.
Yeah.
5 years is a long time, but you guys weren't married. You weren't family with boyfriend's mother, so that's out. You're not owed, well, they're family. They should have a right to know. That's out. But it was also just, and when I say just, okay, it wasn't physical. It was just an emotional affair. and he broke up with her before it turned physical. Yes, bad. We had a few of those back in the days, but
we could see how that can sometimes be a slippery slope.
it's a slippery slope, yes.
I'm glad that they didn't progress to the physical cheating before they broke up.
But sometimes the emotional is even more hurtful, in my opinion.
I agree. In your youth, people grow apart.
True.
And sometimes it takes time to be able to recognize that you've grown apart and you've ventured to other pastures.
How old were these people?
20-something, right?
They were older 20s.
27, 28.
So I feel like that's not really in your youth anymore. I don't know. You kind of should be getting close to figuring it out by your older 20s.
Probably. They started dating when they
Maybe.
were 22 and
So
23.
young, yeah.
So
Although everybody's journey is different. Who am I to judge? Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Hard to say.
we didn't get engaged for like a decade, something like that.
Got all that stuff worked out ahead of time.
Yep.
The most upvoted people's comment is lying by omission is still a lie. I'm going to spin this because I think you said
Yeah.
lying by omission, right? But if you're close to his mom and she'd want to know the truth, you're lying to her. You might be better off being honest right up front in your email.
I can see that perspective.
I suppose it depends on really how close you are.
The response to that, she didn't lie. Her ex did. If she chose not to say anything after that point, she's still not the one lying, even by omission.
I do think, especially, I don't know, every family's different, right? But I think often the bond between a mother and a son is a special one. I have 2 sons and a daughter. But I think, getting in the middle of that is tricky. I guess I think she would be better off to really strongly encourage the boyfriend to tell his mother himself. Because if you insert yourself there, that can be really damaging, not only for her relationship with that person, but also like their relationship, mother-son.
Right. That might be the best solution. Encourage him to
tell the
be
truth.
honest.
Give him the opportunity anyway, maybe?
I like that. There's a few comments in here that I thought were interesting
Okay.
Let's hear him.
from mothers. I have 3 sons. Tell her. 4 here, and I definitely want to know. 5 sons and 2 daughters. I'd really want to know.
100%. I would want to know if my kid was being a jerk. Absolutely.
I know. I'm so thankful that my child's teacher told me he was being a little in kindergarten.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to change in adulthood. I'd still
No,
want to know if
probably
he was
not.
making bad choices.
And lend him my wisdom.
right.
Advice.
Help him.
The last one I'm going to go with is, you won't be the asshole, but I doubt his mother will turn on him.
Right. 100%.
So
100%.
I told Emmett today, hey, dude, there's nothing in the world that you can do that would make me love you any less. You're learning. You sometimes make poor choices. But I'm always going to love you just as much, maybe even more every single day.
Yep. And I think that is always going to hold true. And especially, I think whether they were married or boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't think that even really matters. It's still his core nuclear family. And even despite how close she felt to his mom, I think that relationship is always going to be a little bit different. And should be.
Yeah.
Than with her own son.
I think
We move it on?
This is the last cheating one.
All right.
All right.
Let's hear it.
It was very popular.
Okay.
7 days ago. Will I be the asshole for not forgiving my husband for cheating on me with his ex-wife?
Yikes.
I'm honestly a mess and I don't know what to do. So any advice would be appreciated. I, 27 male, and my husband, 37 male, have been married for 3 years, dating for 6. He has an ex-wife, 37 female, which he divorced a year before we met. We have a son, 7 male, who was adopted after we got married and who I love as my own child because he is. I know my husband, Peter, his fake name, is bisexual. I have no problem with it. And I've had no problem with his ex-wife, Allison, also a fake name. I did have a problem with his family as they're a bit homophobic and are always telling Peter he should get back together with Allison. Well, 2 weeks ago we were at his family's townhouse because it was my son's Jack's birthday, and we wanted to spend it as a family. My mother-in-law decided it would be a great idea to invite Allison, so she arrived in the middle of the party. I didn't want to ruin Jack's birthday, so I just stayed quiet. I spent all my time with Jack, playing with him and cousins at his request. When it was time to cut the cake, I noticed that Allison and Peter weren't there, so I went inside and looked for them around the house. I found them in Peter's old bedroom, taking their clothes off. I stood there in shock for a moment, but then I left and went back to celebrating Jack's birthday. Part of me wanted to scream, cry, but I also was in shock and I refused to make Jack's birthday about me. We cut the cake, opened the presents. People were already leaving when Allison and Peter came back. Peter took me aside and started saying that I shouldn't have cut the cake without him present, and it was disrespectful.
Nope. What? Nope.
I stared at him and just said, "I'm sorry. I just thought you'd be too busy getting in your ex-wife's pants."
Yikes.
He got quiet, so I took Jack and left the house to go back to the hotel. Once I put Jack in bed and made sure he was asleep, I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. I called a friend, and he tried his best to console me. I only calmed down in the morning when I took Jack for breakfast because I didn't want him to see me like that. I'm now watching him play in the park, and I don't want him to suffer. I don't want him to have a broken family. I don't want him to know relationships aren't a happy ever after. Peter has been calling and texting and apologizing for everything, and I'm tempted to forgive him. I'm tempted to just have my family back, and all my friends are saying that it was just a mistake, that he was vulnerable and Allison is his ex-wife. So what am I supposed to do now? I need the advice from people who don't know my husband or me personally.
Ooh, that's hard, I think. And I don't think that anyone who doesn't know you really can give you good advice, because everybody's so different in what their threshold is. I think your threshold for cheating and trying to save your relationship or deciding to move on is so personal. It's so personal.
I think he asks a lot of really good questions there that are super common after, like, especially after finding out I have a family. I don't want to break up my family. How do I make that decision to stay or to break up my family? Do I just forgive and move on? Do I not? How do you even figure that out? How do you figure out what your threshold is, I guess?
Time. I don't think you can make that decision in that moment. I think you have to figure it out. And I think those things do reveal themselves. Like, I know when I first found out that my ex-husband was cheating, it was like, we can fix this. We can save this. We can. And we sat down and we had really honest conversation and all the things, aired all the dirty laundry, right? And I think for a while we both really believed we could. And unfortunately, in our situation, that pattern of behavior didn't change. And so because it became a repeated behavior, I knew I couldn't live my life that way forever, or even for an extended period of time. Had it been a one and done, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I think I maybe would have stayed. But it's so easy to speculate and say, oh, I would have done this or I would have done that. But in that moment, gosh, I don't think you really know. You don't know until you know. So you just got to try and sit with it for a while and kind of see what those behaviors are in the longer term.
See what your feelings are.
And I think, in the immediate, I'm sure the husband's going to come back and be so apologetic and so kind.
So I'll agree with what you guys are saying. Interesting situation to walk in on somebody and then not be like, "What's up, guys?
That took some restraint on his part. And you could tell he was thinking about his son's birthday.
Yeah.
He's not going to ruin it. He's going to hold it together. Oof.
I think the more
And you have
interesting situation is like going back to your ex-partner.
I think his family had a lot to do with that, right? Is they were pushing for him to get back together. The mother-in-law invited the ex-wife, which I think is super disrespectful.
Yeah, but you're also going to be, I guess I'm a little unclear. Is the ex-wife no way
child?
involved with the
Right.
child's?
Correct.
Okay. That makes it a little more
Odd.
and complex.
So there's some updates. So before we wrap this up, I'll give you the update.
Okay.
Peter and Allison didn't notice me when I saw them. There was music very loud downstairs, and they weren't facing the door. I didn't stop them because I was in shock. I stood there for a moment, and I heard my son, so I unconsciously focused on him. Peter didn't come to the hotel because I changed to a different one. He tried to follow me, but I took a taxi when we left. Allison did leave, and he is now staying with his parents. We did meet when I was 20, and he was 30. We started out as friends and we ended up dating. Yes, we're both men, and no, I didn't feel manipulated or groomed by him. He came by our house after a few minutes after I texted him recently. He asked about Jack, and I told him where he was. Then we sat on the couch and started talking. I started crying after a few minutes, and he followed after. I asked some simple questions, why, how many times, among other things. And this is what I could figure out by all the things said. It happened for the first time when he visited his parents about 2 years ago. They had invited her over. They both got drunk. He was feeling lonely, as I had been paying more attention to Jack since we had adopted him, and they had slept together. Nothing happened again until our son's birthday party. He said his mother had pressured him a bit, and he caved. I don't believe he did it for that reason, but I don't know. He said he doesn't love her, and I believe him, but it doesn't negate the fact of what transpired. After talking for a while, I told him that I wanted a divorce. He started sobbing and begging for another chance, but I told him that I can't give him another chance because I wouldn't be able to trust him again, and I don't want that in a relationship. He kept crying and begging for about 30 minutes until I told him I have to think about Jack and his well-being, that we could stay friends and co-parent. He got really mad. He started yelling that it was all Jack's fault and that we should have never adopted him. I was crying, really scared, so I called the house where Jack is staying at currently, and I told them if Peter shows up there, they cannot open the door. After this little episode, I was scared that Peter would try to hurt Jack. I called my friend again, Thomas, and told him everything that happened. He came by and is staying with me until further notice. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what to do and how to move on with this divorce.
That just layered on the complexity. Like, not the first time cheating.
But to blame the son?
That is a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
I agree. This guy, divorce. As soon as he said that it was Jack's fault
Yep.
Yeah.
You're out.
and that he
No coming back from that.
cheated because you were spending more time or attention on Jack, game over. Like, definitely not a 7-year-old's fault.
No.
And you are the adult. You are the parent. You chose to adopt this
Yep.
child.
Yep. That said, I
Gone.
don't think it's an uncommon thing, though, for couples to struggle with the division or the spread of the love and attention when children enter the picture. It's not excusable. It's not okay. But I think some people really struggle with that because they maybe had their partner's 100% attention. And now that attention is multiplied, divided, and that's a transition. Absolutely. But it doesn't give you any right to cheat. And it's not an excuse. And you can never blame the child. You need to be an adult and understand that there are competing demands for your partner's attention now.
And you need to just figure it out. How
And
are
figure
you
it
going
out.
to live in that world where that
Yes.
is just the truth and that is
Because
a reality?
It's not going to change for a long time.
No.
or ever.
So you need to accept it and find a way to live with it and embrace that change in relationship versus fighting it and being resentful towards it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you just have to really find out what works for you as a couple. And I think sometimes that's like prioritizing a date night or, you know, finding a time where you are without your children or child. But I think that's a real emotion. I think it's a real thing. But it happens to everybody who chooses to have children. And you have to like work through that as a family, as a couple, as parents. Mm-hmm. That's just part of life.
It's just part of life.
It's like, grow up, buttercup.
Grow up, buttercup. I like it. I was thinking that they could perhaps go to couples counseling, therapy to work through some of this. I don't know. After the kid comment, I don't know.
Nope.
I don't think that, especially if you're fearful for your child's safety,
that's a whole
then
nother... I think the other like element that's kind of interesting is like going back to a previous partner versus choosing someone new.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I first started dating my current husband, Matt. Like, I remember when we like decided to be exclusive and that we were dating, like we sat down and had a very like mindful conversation. And he like looked me in the eye and was like, you're never going back to Adam, right? Like, this is it. Like I know you're divorced, but like, there's no turning back. Like, I know you guys share a child and he's always going to be part of our life, but he's never going to be a romantic part of our life anymore. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. But he had 100%. To hear that.
But he had to like hear that. Like, we had to have that conversation, I think, for it to be really black and white for him that relationship was truly over before we could truly start our own.
Yeah. Without mingling feelings and
and I
whatnot.
guess for me, it was just like not even part of my brain. Like, there was no option to go back. But Matt was like, we really have to talk about this and like make it very clear, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. And grateful.
That's awesome that he had that conversation instead of sitting in his feelings and just stewing
like
over
wondering.
it. He brought it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
What did the people say?
So, two different stories. The update was a separate story. Okay. So, from the first portion of that was the most upvoted comment: teach your son that future partners have to respect him and their relationship by not being a cheating bastard. It's better to divorce now than when he's older. Let's get this straight. He cheated on you at your son's birthday party. Mm-hmm. He wasn't even out drinking. He wasn't fucked up. He left you and your son, who I'm assuming hasn't had many birthday parties, being that he's adopted only about 3 years ago, and cheated. This is slimy as fuck. You deserve so much better.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Like the choice of venue.
Choice of time. Time and place.
Bad.
Brutal. On the second version.
After the update, okay.
You're absolutely not wrong for not forgiving your husband. His reaction to the news of divorce, blaming your adopted son, is alarming and shows true colors. Mm-hmm. Stay strong and prioritize yours and Jack's safety.
Mm-hmm. You're never going to be sorry that you advocated for your child. And I know it feels so scary to think that your family is going to be separated, but in so many circumstances, that's so much healthier for your kid versus being in a tumultuous relationship. Like, you want to set the standard of your relationship for your kids, that they see you in a loving, kind, mutually respectful relationship versus something that's chaos and tumultuous and cheating and arguing and fighting. And, you know, you want them to see a healthy relationship. And if that isn't with your other parent, that's okay, as long as you're setting a good example of how you'd want them to be treated in a relationship too.
They're going to learn what to expect from their partner by watching you and your relationship. Mm-hmm. If there's name calling in your relationship, they're not going to bat an eye when their boyfriends or girlfriends call them names, right? Because that's just normal. That's, you know, right? or which is not. It's not normal. Don't do it. Name calling is never okay. Never healthy in a relationship. But or so on. If there's yelling, if there's abuse, if it's you're setting the standard for what a relationship, what they can expect in a relationship. So if the relationship that you're in is super unhealthy, it's something to think about, I think.
Absolutely. And there's other ways to show your child a happy, healthy family, even if you can't stay with your current partner or their other parent.
Last comment. This was the mother's endgame. I imagine she's either homophobic, as OP mentioned, and really isn't thrilled with Peter's current arrangement, or sees her former daughter-in-law as a real daughter, the daughter she never had, and is taking every opportunity to push them together. Either way, Peter, still a piece of shit, and a weak, spineless man for following through with it. OP needs to start recording all of his interactions with Peter and needs to get to the court stat.
Oofty. Yep. Next.
Now we can talk about co-parenting. Let's do a story first.
Okay. This is how co-parenting should look. I'm so excited to hear this again.
All right. Ready?
Oh,
Ready.
wait. Okay.
The Reddit
not
story.
Krista's. Okay. Not Krista's story yet.
No.
We're going to do this, and then we're
And
going to
then
hear.
Krista's story. Okay. It's
All right,
so
for anybody
funny.
listening,
Okay. Yes.
stay tuned for Krista's story. It's hilarious.
It's a good one.
Am I the asshole for excluding my ex-wife on my trip with my sons? Me and my ex ended our relationship after she cheated on me. The divorce, in better words, left me high and dry. It took me a while to get back on my feet, but I ended up getting a job that paid really well. It still took me away from the boys for a long period of time. It was a truck driving job. I try my best to make it up to my sons, 15 and 13, whenever I can. I send them gifts, and when I come back from a haul, I spend every second with them. I know it's not enough, but I truly am doing the best that I can. This month, I got lucky, and I got a week off. I've saved up quite a bit, and I decided to take them to Disney World, which they've always wanted to do. When I told them, they were excited and obviously told their mother about it. She later called me and asked why I didn't feel the need to tell her sooner about the trip. I told her it wasn't a problem for her since it fell on my week. She asked if she was invited, and I told her straight up, no. I wanted this to just be me and the boys, and then she could pay for her own trip if she wanted to take them someday. She called me and asked and said I knew she couldn't afford it, but by then I hung up. Now, her side of the family continues to call me an asshole for doing this and saying I'm putting past grudges in the way of what could be a great time for a family. I don't think I am, and it's my money, and it's my turn to spend time with the boys. Am I the asshole?
No. I think no. I think the only part of the story that I would have said, ooh, maybe could have gone better, is just giving her a heads up. It's better to hear from the adult that you're taking your children somewhere, especially, I don't know where they're living, but if you're going to take if you're co-parenting and going to take these children like across state lines or on an airplane or something like that, you should give the other parent a heads up, because I think that that's fair and kind and respectful. But absolutely, she does not need to be invited. I think it's okay for him to want to spend that time exclusively with his kids. There's no problem with that, in my mind.
Okay. I agree with you. But Disney? Does that have any factor into decision making? And I say that being from the Midwest. We don't go to Disney very often.
Right?
It's a big deal
It's
going
a
to Disney
big-
for the first time. However, these kids are teenagers.
They've never been
make
there.
does it make a difference though if they're like 5 to 9 versus teenagers?
I would say yes, it does. I feel like for us specifically, in November, we're going out to visit the Two Hot Takes crew, and Morgan's taking us to Disney. It'll be the first time that the kids have gone, and that's great because they'll still have like the magic, right? 15 and 13, I don't know if you do. I feel like at that point it's probably more so like, oh, we get to go on rides and roller coasters. So still, we don't get there very often. And if the mom was like, oh, but I wanted to like take the kids to Disney, that should have been, and I don't know the background here, right? So is Disney
like that first experience, like the first time?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can tell you I took my son to Disney without my ex-husband. I did talk to him about it before we did that, but I was going to Anaheim for work, and I invited my mom. And so my mom and I and my son flew out there when he was in kindergarten, and it was the best time. And I am sure that Adam probably had feelings about that he maybe never shared with me. I'm sure that was hard, but I gave him a heads up. We talked about it whenever I'm going to take Asher anywhere, always telling him like where we're going, what we're doing. We communicate very well about those things. And I'm sure there have been hurt feelings, but it wasn't a thing that he was like, you can't take him or I want to come. It was just like, you know what, I'm really, and maybe I just have a really mature ex-husband, which I think I do. And we do, I think, co-parent pretty well. And he was like, hey, I just can't do that for him right now, but I'm really glad that you can. And I thought that was really awesome.
That's really awesome.
I'm sure it doesn't always go that way, but I think
he was thinking about Asher. He wasn't thinking about himself.
And I think it does complicate things if you're going to try to go together. Not that you couldn't make that work, but then likely you're going to have separate arrangements in terms of accommodations.
Yep.
And then where do the kids stay? And then that puts them in kind of a hard spot. Like, are you going to stay at the hotel with mom or are you going to stay at the hotel with dad? And you know, I think sometimes it can feel more complicated.
Even for the kids, especially if your relationship between the two of you isn't always peaceful. Is the kid going to worry that you're just going to fight the whole time?
Mm-hmm. And even if you don't, like, I think Adam and I get along really well, especially if we have conflict. We try really hard to shield Asher from that. Like, we talk about that separately when he's not around to sort out the challenging things. Because, I mean, I have challenging moments with my current husband and the children we're raising too. Like, you're not immune to that. Like, you're not going to always agree on everything of parenting. And so we try to shield our kids from those conversations. But I think there's still that feeling, you know, of like mom versus dad. And so like, yeah, I mean, it's complex, but I think when it comes to travel, that is even harder.
I would agree that not the asshole for planning a trip with your kids and wanting to take them on a trip and not, there's no rule that you have to take your ex-spouse along on family trips.
And I think financial situations can be just so different, right? And right, wrong, and different. It might just not be the right time for the other person.
If it would work out, like if it was something that you're like, wow, the boys would really love if we could all do the family trip together and I feel at peace with that and financially everybody's in a good spot with that. Awesome. That's great. That's also wonderful. But I don't think it has to be that way. It's not that, oh, just because the ex-wife can't come, you can't take your kids to Disney.
And why would you want your kids to miss out on that experience?
She should be thinking about her kids.
I know that's super hard not to be there. I know that I would have felt...
She's jealous.
Jealous, of course. Right. And I would have felt that way had Adam done it first. I know that, but I also know that given that opportunity, I'd want Asher to go.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps you could be like, can you please take a lot of videos?
Send me pictures.
So that I can see some of their reactions to
absolutely
Mickey or I don't know, whatever, the roller coaster. You know, I'd love to see some videos. It's so easy to do nowadays.
Yes.
So I think that would be a better approach.
Agreed.
I'm bringing it to the people real quick. And for the record, I agree with you completely, but I had to play some devil's advocate.
Totally fair.
But
what do the people say?
this individual, from seeing similar stuff play out, I'm guessing it went something like this. But a trip to Disneyland is a big family moment. I don't want to miss out on that. You're just being mean, excluding me from the family, and holding a grudge. So, Disney, it holds like this value, and I can understand how like everybody, for some reason, it's like the epitome to bring your child to Disneyland. So, other people, however, it's a resounding not the asshole, by the way.
Okay, good.
Great.
She isn't your family anymore, so it'll still be a great family trip. Maybe the ex should ask her AP, affair partner, to take her, since he was obviously more important than her family when she cheated on OP.
It's a little
rough.
It's a little petty comment.
I like it.
And for the record, you kind of are always still family. It might be different. Yeah. But you're always connected.
This is crazy. OP is supposed to pay for his ex and then let her join the trip. That would be the only way to show that he is still not holding a grudge. Trash. Unbelievable, people. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole.
Wait, was she expecting him to pay for her too?
Bring her along. It sounded like that to me. Like
That's
bring her along
ridiculous.
because it's not like, if she couldn't afford it, was she going to get her own way? Yeah, I think that gets complicated.
For sure. Like, even if you were going together, I do not think it would be on him to pay for her.
Absolutely not.
So,
Get your own flight, get your own hotel, meet me out there if that's really important to you.
all right, co-parenting. Do we get to hear the Krista story?
Let's do it. So we've heard a little bit,
Yeah.
but you're co-parenting top notch.
Oh, you guys
Yes.
are so kind. We're not perfect.
But this moment was the funniest moment. I love the story so much. Can you please share it?
So here's one of our funnier co-parenting moments. So we really work together, and we have to because my current husband and I have 2 children, and my ex and I have 1, so we have 3 children collectively. And Asher is our oldest, of course, and he plays hockey. And hockey in the Midwest is a big deal.
It's a
Is life.
big deal.
And it is a very big commitment. And my son is to the point where he's playing hockey often 5+ days a week. And so we take turns. And sometimes the demands of our little kids require me to stay home and not attend hockey practice. So the parent meeting comes up, and I send my current husband, Matt, to the parent meeting. Asher's with his dad, Adam. So they meet, and the kids go out on the ice, and they're skating. And all the parents meet in the locker room, and they sit in a circle. And we're getting to know the parents, meet the team. So they go around, do introductions. So in natural fashion, you say, hi, my name is, and my child is so-and-so. So it just so happened that my husband, Matt, was sitting before Adam. And he's like, hey, my name's Matt. I'm Asher's dad. And he sometimes pauses when he says that because he's his stepdad. And he wants to be ultimately like super respectful of that. But he also takes his parenting role of Asher very seriously. And so he doesn't want to always make it a big deal. So next in line is Asher's biological dad, his actual dad. And he's like, hi, I'm also Asher's dad. And by the way, we're not together. And everybody in this very north Minnesota town bursts out laughing. And I get a text message from my ex-husband later with like the laughing, crying emoji, like, don't ever send Matt to the parent meeting again. We had the most hysterical moment. And so luckily they both can laugh at it to this day. They both think it's really funny. And I'm so grateful for that. But yes, I'm Asher's dad. I'm also Asher's dad, but we're not together. So
Love that.
I just love it. I just think it's so funny. And that they can just have some good humor about it.
Yes, we're fortunate that, you know, it might be awkward, it might be uncomfortable, but you have to kind of laugh.
And the text to you afterwards.
Just like
oh my God.
And I just was like, of course. And you knew Matt Rouse.
I mean, like I know your husband, and so like people who know Matt, like he is so great. We love Matt. Sometimes there can be, you know, a little bit of can't we all be a little bit awkward?
Yeah.
And that is part of his charm, honestly.
Oh yeah. Matt's an awkward guy sometimes, and it is funny, and it usually works to his advantage because he can
100%
get
of
a
the
good
time.
laugh. Yeah.
100% of the time. So I love that story.
So I have 2 stories left.
Okay.
Kind of opposite ends of the spectrum in regards to the ages of child.
Okay.
So here we go.
Let's hear it.
Am I the asshole for not wanting my husband's ex-wife to watch our daughter when we return to work full time? My husband, 38, is trying to convince me, female, 28, to have his ex-wife be the primary caretaker for our daughter instead of utilizing daycare when we return to work. Our daughter will be 3 months old when my maternity leave ends, and the plan has always been for her to go to daycare. We've read reviews and interviewed the director at the daycare up until about a month before our daughter was born. He seemed satisfied with this arrangement. Around the 7-month mark of my pregnancy, my husband got the idea that we should ask his ex-wife to watch our daughter instead of daycare. We have a very positive co-parenting relationship with her and have never had so much as an argument. We all work together to do what's best for their son, male, 8. But while we have a great co-parenting relationship, I'd like to maintain the current boundaries that we have in place. To me, having to drop our daughter off every day and pick her up before and after work has potential to blur lines and create an arrangement I'm simply not comfortable with. While I understand this would likely save us money and give him peace of mind, personally knowing who will be watching our daughter, I don't think it's something I'll ever be okay with. He insists that I need to put my ego aside and take emotions out of my decision making to choose what is best for our daughter. This arrangement would also require him to alter his work schedule significantly and require either one of us to take off work when she or their son is ill. Not to mention, we would have to plan summer vacations around her schedule as well. Maybe I am more comfortable with the idea of daycare since I was in one until roughly 5th grade and still maintain contact with the teachers I had while there. I just want to maintain boundaries. So am I the asshole for not wanting my husband's ex to watch our daughter full time when we return to work?
Not the asshole.
I agree. Not the asshole. She already knows what she like.
Yeah.
She knows in her core that she's not comfortable with it. And I think that is perfectly okay.
I think so too. And I think, you know, what you feel, like that gut reaction is so strong as a parent. And I think if you're not comfortable with it, you shouldn't do it. I also think that those boundaries are important. And I think for some people that arrangement might work, but all parties have to be super comfortable with that. And I think that's a little bit gray. You know, like I get along with my ex well. Would I trust him to watch my other children? Absolutely. Would I ever ask him to do that? Probably not. Not because I didn't think he could do it, but I just think that that's a big ask for one, because that's a little bit of a complex relationship. But that doesn't mean that they're not friendly. Like when we're at events together, when, you know, we invite him to our home, we always sit together at sporting events. We do a lot of things together. My kids are very comfortable with him. But that doesn't mean that it would be appropriate for him to be the full-time childcare for our other children. And I do think that could complicate things and maybe jeopardize the good co-parenting relationship you have for your older child.
Your ex, I know that he has a significant other, correct?
Yes.
Are they
They're married. Yep.
They're married.
Yep.
Could you imagine bringing your youngest to your ex-husband's new partner to like watch?
Yeah. I mean, it would be different. It would be different, especially as like an everyday scenario. Of course, everybody's relationships are different. And maybe for some people that's comfortable. I certainly know people that is very comfortable. They have co-parented so long that they do like babysit for one another and those things work really well. I think those are really unique scenarios, but I do know of them. I don't think it would be the best situation for us. But I also think as they grow up, there will be curiosities there. And I think some of that is probably, at least in my life, easier boundary. Like my younger two will be like, can we go into Asher's dad's house and meet their dogs and see his Legos? Because I bet he has really cool toys there. And luckily, my ex-husband is like, sure, bring them in. We stay for 10 minutes. They see the new Legos that are so cool in Asher's room there. And they pet the dogs. And then we leave. Yeah. And I think that's a perfectly appropriate amount of time for us to invade his home.
So
everybody's happy in that situation.
Happy, and then we move along.
Yeah. I love that. Legos.
I totally think that it could happen or that it would be fine and could work well if all parties were enthusiastically comfortable. If she had a great relationship with the ex-wife and she was like, oh yeah, that would be fabulous. Like if her gut reaction was, yeah, that sounds great versus having, and this is probably her first child as well.
That hesitation.
But if she's having that hesitation, you got to listen to your gut and say, nope, stick with your original plan.
And I especially think like she mentioned, like it would upend their work schedule and their summer plans. And then when you start having to like adjust the way you want to live your life around somebody else, and that's somebody that you're trying to maintain a really healthy co-parenting relationship with, I can see that line getting blurred and you starting to, and maybe this is just my own issue, but I think I would start to feel some resentment perhaps of like, oh, now I have to live my life around your schedule. And I don't want to feel that way about that person.
Yes.
Where when you have to do things because the daycare or the school says you have to, that's just the rules of life.
Right.
I don't know.
I get that.
I guess I can't really play devil's advocate because I agree. So here we go. Being 28, husband 38, I'm assuming ex-wife is probably in that 38-ish range, right? And just being a new parent, I couldn't imagine, for me personally, I would feel like almost judged to a point where, okay, I have to have all my shit together because I'm also taking care of an 8-year-old that is her child, but I'm a new parent, I'm struggling, or I'm trying to figure out my shit, and this is ridiculous, and I'm late for work, and I'm dropping the kid off. Like, I would feel in my own insecurities like, this just isn't great. I can't show this person my true self. Now, I don't know how close their relationship is, right? But, yeah, it's just where I stand at this point in time with that. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it would be hard.
Stick with the daycare. Trust your gut.
Yep.
It's only
Just tell your husband how you feel. He should respect that.
It's only $1,000 a month for 4-ish years. You'll make more money.
Or more. Or it might be more than $1,000 a month, but depending on where you live and how old your child is. Yeah.
Fucking daycare.
We are on our 12th year of paying our same daycare provider, and it was our last
year. That's so
our last
exciting.
year of having a child. They have been very good to us, but after 12, which will be by the time we're done, 12 and 3/4 years of paying this institution, we'll be very happy when that bill is done.
Can I ask how much that bill is?
Well, over the years that has fluctuated, but currently we have one child.
Yep.
And she's a preschooler.
Per child, yep.
Yep. And so now as a preschooler, it is $980 a month, I believe, or $960. Yeah, right. Pretty much $1,000.
And you pack breakfast and lunch, right?
Well, she eats breakfast at home, and then we pack all the food she eats, so we pack her lunch every day too. And but yeah, when we had multiple children there, that bill was bigger than our mortgage. That's for sure.
That's hard.
Yeah, but it was worth it investing in your child's.
Yes. You want them to be
And your childcare
somewhere
is real important.
safe.
Yes. Safe, healthy, happy.
I started to look at the comments. I didn't get down the line, but I didn't see anything. But we totally forgot. Can we just, this husband, what an asshole. Get over your ego.
Yeah, not kind.
Not kind.
Especially at 3 months postpartum.
Right.
Nope.
Resounding vote. Not the asshole. What a bizarre suggestion. Honestly.
Agreed.
Yep.
You're not wrong for wanting to keep the boundaries clear and maintain your comfort. Your concerns about practicality and personal boundaries are valid. Yeah, they're all kind of just saying the same thing. Honestly,
We got it.
I think we got that
I think,
one.
yeah,
We knew.
Yeah.
that was a home run.
The only person that has stepped out of line here is not the asshole. What your husband is asking is absolutely insane. There is no planet on which his ex-wife watching your daughter instead of daycare is remotely appropriate. So somebody taking the hard line there. Yeah. All right.
Last one. Should we?
Yeah. Am I the asshole for refusing to miss my son's dance knowing it would make my ex-wife uncomfortable? I've never been abusive to my ex-wife. Not
Good.
physically, not emotionally, nothing.
Excellent.
We ended our relationship after she left me for my brother.
Oh, that's tricky.
The divorce. Really? So
That
just
is tricky.
throw a wrench into that relationship right there. The divorce was horrible to me because of how she brought up my past before we had our sons, Vince and Stan. It wasn't exactly colorful, but I didn't expect her to try to ruin my reputation the way that she did. Thankfully, the judge didn't take into account my past and only took into account my present actions. She tried to say I was abusive to her in order to get full custody, but she couldn't come up with enough evidence, and neither of my boys would go and lie for her. She did take the house and half of my stuff along with half of my money. My family was on her side, and they all really attempted to take my boys away from me. I was left brokenhearted and humiliated, but the one thing I at least had were the boys. I've cut off my entire family, and I only speak to my ex-wife when it's about the boys. In the past, she has tried to reconcile, but I've told her to pound sand at every turn. She continues to make me out to be an abusive criminal in order to try to take my kids away from me, which is the one thing that I can never forgive. As far as today goes, my eldest, Vince, does ballet, and I pay 100% of that fee. I pay 100% of Stanley's baseball as well, which is in the summer. I put Vince through dancing camp, and that'll soon end. It's Vince's last night of doing ballet. Vince got the main role, so he's very happy and hasn't stopped talking about it. My dad ended up calling me and asking me if I could not go since my ex would be uncomfortable with me being there. I told him no and said her feelings aren't my responsibility. He tried to argue since I go to all the recitals and all of the other dances, and I could just let her have this one dance to go to. I told him again I won't miss it, and I've never banned her from going to any other events. She chooses not to go. He called me and asked before saying it's no wonder she left for my brother. I hung up. I talked to my friend, and she said although I have the right to go, I should probably give her this one time since it's not the first show I've watched my son. Now I'm doubting myself. Am I the asshole?
Not the asshole. Not the asshole.
I agree.
I think that showing up for your kids is so important. And the more people that show up for your kids, the better. In an ideal world, you could show up in a harmonious way and support them. But if you can't, you can still both show up. There's no requirement. Even though it's harder, There's no requirement that you have to interact with one another. You don't have to sit together. But you shouldn't have to sit out. And the more people that love your kids and the more people that show up for them, the better off they will be. So just avoid her. But go.
That you said it beautifully. I 100% agree. Yep. There's no reason that he should miss out on this ballet. Who paid for it? Also, in my opinion, doesn't matter. I do wonder how, like if somebody like really doubles down on the like, I wasn't abusive, I've never been abusive emotionally, physically, whatever, my family, like if you like, oh, doth protest too much,
that maybe there's more to the story.
There might be more to the story there. But also I don't think that it necessarily, I think either way, I would still have the same response, is that everyone should go. Everyone should support the kid. As you said, no requirement to interact with your ex-wife whatsoever while they're at the ballet. I mean, I assume this is at least an auditorium, and there's plenty of places to sit, and you don't have to sit next to each other. So,
I think I picked this story specifically because there is a story from Krista about being at hockey with Adam, and then do you sit next to Adam? Do you not sit next to Adam? And I think you guys
always sit together.
100%.
We all sit together, whether it's Adam, his wife, me, my husband, my kids, Adam's parents, Adam's siblings, my parents, my siblings. We always all sit together. And we have made that choice because we are able to get along. We are able to still interact in a very positive way. That doesn't mean that there haven't been times where it's been hard. That doesn't mean that in the beginning it wasn't super awkward. The more we do it, the easier it is. And now it's just assumed. And I think it's really, for us, really important that we always sit together, because then at the end, our child never has to choose. He never has to be like, I got off the ice. Who should I go see first? Should I go see mom and talk to her? Should I go see dad and talk to him? We stay together so that he can collectively come and talk to all of us, or come talk to us like any other family would, because I never want to put him in the situation that he has to choose between us. And so we make a strong effort to be together in that way so that it's easier for him. And when he looks up in the stands, he sees us together. I just think we have chosen to be a cohesive unit. That doesn't mean that we've never been to a game, or maybe Adam and I have had a hard conversation before that, and maybe we don't talk a lot. We might just sit there and choose not to chat a lot. But most of the time, we can just chat about other things, like, or just watch the game and talk about how he's doing, and whether it's baseball or hockey or the choir concert or whatever it is, we try really hard.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's really beautiful. The point that you made, I never even would have thought about, of the whole like, okay, after the choir concert or whatever event, to have to choose, okay, which parent do I go see first?
I mean, because they're always going to say, go find your family.
Yes.
Well, we're all his family. So how do you choose? And that puts him in a really hard spot. And so whoever gets there first just saves enough seats for all of us. And we just do it. I don't know. But we're fortunate. Yeah. But that doesn't also mean we are fortunate. Absolutely. But it has taken effort and practice too. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, just this is so easy. We've both had to make choices and sacrifices to make that relationship work in that way. It hasn't always been easy. We've had to let things go, big things sometimes. But for me, those big sacrifices have been worth it to maintain a positive relationship for our son.
Sometimes you have to swallow your pride and just think, okay, what's best for the kid?
Absolutely. I've made a lot of choices that a lot of other people have disagreed with. I've gotten a lot of advice that I didn't take, and I'm glad I didn't take it, because in the end, it maybe wasn't beautiful. It maybe made my life harder at times. And I'm sure on the flip side, Adam could say the same. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect and he hasn't had any problems with me either, because I'm sure he has made plenty of concessions on his end too. But I think we've both made the conscious decision that sometimes it's worth it to just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of my own family situation.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had a unique family situation growing up.
Yeah, a blended family, you would call it, where I had multiple father figures who mostly got along. And then Morgan and Taylor's dad, Jerry, father knows something, was also in the picture. And then our biological fathers, very interesting. And I'm trying to figure out how to like relate that into these stories. But for the most part, all of my father figures and Jerry all got along. Jerry did a very good job being a co-parent at events and was very good. Our biological fathers, not so much. I don't think they came to a lot of sporting events, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it did make it very easy that there was no animosity for the group that did show up when, you'd go out and see family. They were all together. So I agree with you on that point.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I was fortunate too that my parents are divorced. But my mom and my dad get along really well also. And again, I know, having been through what I've been through now, I didn't know this as a child, I don't think, but I know now, like, the sacrifices that they made for that to be an okay relationship, and that they continue to maintain that to be an okay relationship, because I moved away from where the rest of my family lives. And so when me and my family go down to see grandma and grandpa, they all congregate at one house. Like my mom, my stepdad, my dad, my brother.
Super cool.
Everybody gets together, and we all get together and have dinner or brunch or whatever the event is going to be. And so I think that example was sent for me very early of like, you only have some of these major life events happen, hopefully, or most of the time, only once. You might only have one wedding. You're only going to have the birth of your child for each child one time. So you can choose to miss that event, or you can choose to all get along and be there. When those big things happen, your kids graduate, whatever it might be, you have the choice. You can make it hard, and you can choose to have that cause division, or you can choose to put aside your other preferences and be like, hey, we're all going to show up for this individual and be at this event, and we're going to celebrate, and we're going to be cordial and happy so we can all be present. And so I am grateful that my parents set that precedent early for us too. And I think that has made it easier for me to do that for my son as well.
You knew it was possible, again, like the whole modeling of relationships.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful example of, although probably your parents didn't view their relationship ending in divorce, right? When they got married. But the way that they fashioned that actually had a beautiful, beneficial impact on your life and your experience, knowing from the get-go, it's possible to all do this together and be this together because I've seen it. Whereas, perhaps people with, divorced parents that never were able to do that, I think that might be harder to imagine or to see if you're not seeing those successful relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know sometimes people think we're crazy because now, like for the holidays, we might get together and it'll be both of my parents, my step-parents, my family, plus my ex-husband. When we have birthday parties for my son, they're all here, and my ex-in-laws come, and everybody comes, because it's easier to have that event one time.
Yes.
Rather than replicate it multiple times over and over, and then everybody can be there. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. We just do it, and we enjoy each other's company, and then we can go our separate ways. And if you have things that are challenging, you just put them aside for that time.
Yeah. That's
Love it.
great advice.
So did we go soft?
I think think we did okay.
Yeah?
I think we did okay.
I think so too.
You coming back?
If you'll have me.
Yes, yay.
Thanks for a fun
This
night.
is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, for sharing, for being vulnerable and opening up and kind of sharing your very personal experience and your advice. I always appreciate your words of wisdom in all areas. So
For what they are.
they're worth a lot.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Until next week, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.